everybody, welcome back to another episode of Comedy Pinata. We are coming to you live from the historic Zanies in Nashville, and very, very excited about our very special guest today. Before I get to our guest, I gotta share with you, we got a sponsor. Very excited about this. Credit cards, student loans, mortgages, car loans, hospital bills. Did you know you have a lot of rights if any of these ever go to debt collectors? That's right. Consumers, not debt collectors, have a huge list of rules they have to abide by, and that's where the law firm SueTheCollector.com comes in. SueTheCollector.com is a national consumer law firm that only helps consumers. The lawyers at Sue the Collector have helped literally thousands of people turn the tables on debt collectors and put an end to the illegal harassment, abuse, and repeated phone calls that many people find themselves subjected to through no fault of their own. The lawyers at Sue the Collector can help everyone in all 50 states. They've won millions for consumers over the years and have canceled over, get this, $1 billion in consumer-related debts. That's right, $1 billion. Right now, they really want to speak to anyone that's had their car repossessed. Did you know that consumers do not have to allow repo men to take their cars against their will? In most cases, you can actually legally refuse to let them take your car. Now, if you've ever objected to a car repo and they still got your car against your will, you may be sitting on a very valuable case. So call Sue the Collector's office right now at 1-877-BAD-REPO or 1-877-223-7376. Again, that's 1-877-BAD-REPO or 1-877-223-7376. They're open right now to take your call one more time. That is 1-877-BAD-REPO. And a big thanks to our folks at SueTheCollector.com for being our first sponsor. That being said, I'm extremely excited about this. We have our guest here, Mr. Henry Cho, a pioneer for folks like me.
Yeah, if you got any Asian blood, yeah, that's
in the comedy world. And I remember it was a few years ago, I was at a club, I forget which club it was, and you were there, and I was so nervous. I was like, oh my God, that's Henry Cho. And I didn't know what to say, so I was like, it was one of those where it's like, I'm so excited to see you, but I didn't want to bother you. And I was just like, maybe I'll just stand back. So then I felt like somebody at a zoo just watching the gazelle behind the cage, like, oh, there he is. But I remember, obviously, you know, when I was watching all those stand-up shows in the late 80s through the 90s, and you were quite a fixture on those. And I remember a bit you had done where you would repeat the word. So it was like, you know, is this serious or is this serious?
Right.
And that was one of those jokes as a teenager. I just was like, it was funny and it resonated and it stayed with me all the years, never intending to do stand-up, whatever. And when I was doing it, you know, you go back and you watch some clips or whatever, and you think of bits you appreciate. And that was one bit I was like, it's such a great bit, and it's one that I think every comic thinks of but didn't do. And those are the best bits.
Exactly, and that is one of those. But I mean, even today, you know, on the social media, old clips come up, and they'll show bits of that, and I get more comments about that one saying that's the one that we repeat all the time. And that just started out like most things, you know, just hanging out. County Magic Club, we're all hanging out, and a bunch of wait staff was doing it, and I said, what does that mean? You just changed. And so it went from there, as you know. So, so the comedy club where you saw me or wherever, you finally came up and spoke, though, right?
I did not come up to speak to you.
You just kind of hung.
I hung out because I didn't want to be that guy.
But you're Asian, so you already had an in.
I had an in.
You had an in.
I had an in. Well, the other time I saw Margaret Cho at the Hollywood Improv, and I didn't go up and talk to her. And again, it was one of those things, just like, oh my God, that's Margaret. And I'm a big fan, and you want to go say hi. And I was like, what do I say? And again, the same trap of just like, and maybe I'll just sit back. And then I was at LAX maybe 2 months later, and it was like 6 a.m, and I'm at the terminal, and I hear, hey, Steve Byrne. And I turn around, and I was like, you know my name? Like, you know who I am? And it was one of those redeeming kind of feelings where somebody you idolize knows who you are, and it felt so good. And I was like, oh my God, Margaret Cho knows my name.
There you go.
And that felt so good. But I do want to thank you, obviously, for I remember being a kid, and Johnny Yun, I believe, was the first Korean American to do the Tonight Show. Is that correct?
He was the first Korean born.
Right. They call me Bruce. That was
yeah. So he did the Tonight Show. So I was the first American Korean. Oh,
There you go.
Yeah, whatever. I was the first generation born here to do
Right.
network television and all that stuff.
Unbelievable.
So,
And
it's pretty crazy.
you did it at a time whereas I think any any comedy fan or even young comic out there that could be watching this goes, oh, well, that's so in vogue right now. Progressive, ideals have come in. Diversity is a huge staple. Every commercial you see, every TV show, you've got to represent everybody. And you did it when literally there was hardly any representation, and hardly any representation via, I would say, Asian Americans.
Oh, yeah. It was me and Phil Nee. Phil was out of New York. And
Great hair.
yeah. He and I
Great
compete.
hairline.
He and I compete
You
with
too,
that.
buddy. Yeah.
But so the thing is, we were it. I mean,
Yeah.
and there wasn't. And we were speaking. I was speaking to Joe Coy about the same thing you are.
Yeah.
Growing up watching, there's nothing. And he's, his quote was, "I never knew we were allowed to do that.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't know that was possible.
Sure.
That we could be in the mainstream." And I never thought about it. I was born in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I was the only Asian kid, so I was always used to being the only Asian person in a room.
Right.
And here I am doing stand-up, and I'm in Hollywood. I'm the only Asian person doing stand-up.
Sure.
At the time.
Which reminds me of one of my favorite jokes, and you did it in the 2006 special where you grew up and you're playing Army, and there was that joke, but you play Cowboys and Indians.
Yeah.
And you were...
Always the cook. So...
And
the crazy thing is, so growing up, I know, but growing up, I didn't identify with Hop Sing. I identified with Little Joe. I was always Little Joe.
Sure,
when
yeah.
When we played Bonanza as kids,
Right.
My buddy who was a little chubby, he was Hoss.
Yeah.
And the older guy was Lauren Green,
Right.
Mr. Cartwright. I was always Little Joe. Mm-hmm. I was Little Joe. I was the cool kid. The one with the swagger and
Right.
quick with the draw. That was me growing
And
up.
still are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's who I identified with. So it was
Right.
a weird thing when you get to Hollywood and they try to put you in this Asian bubble.
Sure.
Where you're going to be this guy. I'll never get it. I went to go read for a role one time, and it was me and like 5 white guys. Mm-hmm. And the other actors looked up and they go, "They're going Asian? Are they going Asian?" I go, "What? No, they're going guy."
They see you and they think, oh, I lost this role.
Right. They thought they rewrote it. They're going Asian. I go,
Right.
"No, they're going guy."
Right.
And they're like, "What are you doing here?" I go, "I'm a guy."
I'm a human being, guys.
Yeah, I'm a guy.
I'm a guy, yeah.
So I just went in and read it like a guy and stuff like that. So that was the weird thing about doing what I did back then. There was no precedent really. So
Sure.
no one really knew what to do with me.
Right.
Every role that came up, I had to rewrite kind of, and other opportunities, people just couldn't wrap their heads around it. Even
Sure.
these big creative people, they're just like going, we can't have an Asian guy from the South doing that. Can you speak like regular English? I go, I can, but why would you waste that?
Well, yeah, you have an opportunity for something extremely unique and special, especially back in the day.
Right.
I mean, you want to talk about a grand slam. It's like, what do you mean? I mean, the minute you open your mouth,
Right.
Midwest America is going to go, oh, he's one of us.
Right.
Oh, that's great.
Well, that's what Linda Bloodworth, she saw me do stand-up on TV, and she wrote a role for me on Designing Women.
Right.
And I'd never acted in my life at this point. She's like, "Hey, I got a role for you. Love for you to do it." I go, "Sure, I'll do it."
Yeah,
So
of
next
course.
thing I know, I'm sitting there at a table read, Annie Potts and Dixie Carter and
Wow, that's
Delta
great.
Burke and-
When being on TV meant something too.
yeah, there were only 3 channels back then.
That's right.
Fox was just coming on board, kind of thing.
And you got a whole new audience after Designing Women.
Yeah,
I
I
assume,
sure
right?
did. I sure did. The inside of my apartment looked spectacular after that. But yes, but Linda Bloodworth got it.
Yep.
She saw it. And, it was one of those deals. I had a meeting set up with Brandon Tartikoff the next
Sure,
week.
Jesus. Wow.
Because Delta Burke was like, "Hey, why don't you just show up next week?
Yeah.
She'll have to write you in. Just
Yeah.
show up. I'll come pick you up." And I go, "I have a meeting Tuesday with Brandon Tartikoff." And she's like,
Wow.
"Wow."
Yeah, that's amazing.
I go, "Yeah, I can't really not go to that." So I'll go in, and Shayna Landsberg from NBC Development, she got it.
Yep.
And Brandon got it, and we just couldn't make it work. And one of my biggest fans and supporter was Steve Allen, who invented
Oh
the
my
Tonight
God.
Show.
The original, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
I did the comedy convention 1989 in Las Vegas. Did a set, came off, and there stands Steve Allen.
Wow.
And he's like, "Hey, Henry, I'm Steve Allen." I went, "Yeah, sir, I know who you are." And he's like, "You know that old saying, there's no such thing as a new joke?" I said, "Yes." He said, "You have like 10.
Wow.
He goes, "There's been a couple Asian comics, been a lot of Southern comics, never been an Asian Southern comic.
That's right.
So your angle is totally different." And he looked at Shayna Landsberg, who happened to be standing there.
Wow.
And he's like, "Shayna, we got to get him on TV." And she goes, "Well, we're trying. We can't get people
God,
to
that's
get it."
great.
They just couldn't get it. It was so different back then.
But especially back then, you got to be thinking after a conversation like that, and every step of the way, I'm sure you're getting compliments and great, representation. But the tailwinds that you must be given when you hear Steve Allen say something like that to you has got to be just a huge boost to the confidence.
Oh my gosh, Steve Allen! I got a call from some DJs in Seattle.
Yeah.
And they said, "Hey, just want to say, hey, we have somebody on the air here, and said he's one of your biggest supporters." And I said, "Well, who's that?" And they go, "Steve Allen." I went, "What, Mr. Allen?" And he goes, "Hey, Henry, yeah, I'm on the air." And
God.
they were asking me about who I think, should be on TV and who be moving forward. And I just talked about you for about 10 minutes. And so they wanted to call you.
Oh, my God. That's unbelievable.
Yeah. I'm like,
pretty sweet.
Yeah. I mean, Steve Allen, are you kidding me?
Before we get into the nooks and crannies of the show, as you know, we watch stand-up clips, we talk about them. I do want to ask you, because as a stand-up comic, I always think of like where I came into play in the world of stand-up, and clubs were established, the Cellar was established. I started in New York, and the goal was always TV, whatever. And now you're seeing a new front of comedy where it's turning into almost like you have to have a podcast to remain sustain some relevance, and then get out there and branch your comedy out, as opposed to bestowed by the industry. You can do it on your own with a setup like this, right?
Right.
But I always thought the comics that came up in the 80s and 90s are the true pioneers in comedy, because prior to, you had the Borscht Belt, you had vaudeville prior to that, and then you had, in the East Village, kind of cool speakeasies, or, the coffee shops that had the folk singers come in, and comics would go through that route. But then the boom in the 80s with comedy clubs, and you might have been coming in the tail end of that, perhaps, but you were still part of that, where you were at the forefront of spreading the gospel of comedy in a really mainstream, broad way. Given that you were part of that, can you tell me? Sorry, this is a long-winded question, but I hope I'm on the mark. I feel I am. What is the biggest difference you've seen from the time you started, when you could maybe have 5 minutes on the Tonight Show and tour for that for years, to what comedy has become present day? I mean, you were a part of two golden ages of comedy. Comedy's never been bigger, I think, than right now, and it never was as big as when it was when you were doing all those showcase shows that were on A&E, et cetera, et cetera. So.
Right. So I did. I was the wave was getting ready to break in the 80s when I started, 1986.
Right. And you still look like you did back then, so you can go fuck yourself. I don't know what you're doing, but the Korean skin.
It's because I'm full-blooded.
That's right. I'm happy.
Yeah. You got the downside on you. But so, and the great thing about when I started was there were so many places to work.
Right.
So the difference, and I tell the guys who tour with me now, the difference I see. One of the biggest differences is, comedy clubs used to be open Tuesday through Saturday and Wednesday through Sunday. We used to work all week long.
Wow.
And, my first road gig, I was gone 18 weeks from Knoxville. I worked myself from Knoxville to Billings, Montana and back.
Wow.
9 out, 9 back.
Yeah.
Working almost every night except for maybe a Monday or Tuesday.
And how many holes is that? Just curious, because I know you're golfing your way there, right?
Oh yeah, I played every golf course known to man. I played golf in all 50 states. I'm a lucky man. But that's what's missing is the hang. Because now I do a theater, I do a weekend, or like even here, like at Zanies. Like this weekend, I'm in Jacksonville, Florida.
Sure.
So I'm there Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yep.
And we stay in hotel rooms. So there's no condo. There's no 24-hour hang.
Right.
And in the old days, you'd show up in St. Louis on a Tuesday. You'd meet two other comedians you'd never met before, and you're staying in the same place.
Up, yeah.
and you hang all day, every day. I mean, during the day, some guys may sleep in, some may go to the mall, movies. I'd go play golf, et cetera, et cetera. But the hang's not there. I mean, every night you're there together and you're learning. You're learning how to be a comedian from the headliner, whether good or bad. I was very blessed throughout my career. I worked early on with Jerry Seinfeld, Jeff Foxworthy, Bill Engvall, and they taught me how to do it, how to be a headliner. And so that's what I see missing from back then to now. I don't know how many comedy clubs actually have condos anymore. Can't be that many.
Yeah, very few.
Right.
I mean, this is one of the last.
And the headliners don't stay in condos anymore.
No.
Even if they have one.
No, you guys made our lives so much easier. So again, thank you.
Right. No, I know. I mean, we had a time when they took the phones out of the condos, and Seinfeld and Larry Miller and Dennis Wolfberg, they said, hey, we got to talk to our agents, and you can't do that because comedians were making long distance calls.
Up the bills, yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So for about 2 weeks, there were no phones in the condos.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, they went back in. And I'll never forget, there's West Palm Beach, me and Foxworthy were there. We used to go down there and do spring training, go to baseball games during the day. And they had a phone booth like 2 blocks away in this horrible neighborhood.
Right.
I'd have to go down there with a baseball bat while he would call his wife every night. That was what we did. No one ever bothered us. But
You're
we
prepared.
Thought
You
it'd be
spring
smart
training,
to
you had
go
the
down
bats,
there.
yeah.
I got the bats. We're baseball minds.
That's right.
But so nowadays, headliners don't stay with the openers. So the openers don't have that 24/7 hang. That's what I'm saying.
Right. And a lot of times the headliners rarely even talk to maybe the feature. The MC is kind of nervous and in and out.
Right. And we bring our own features.
And we bring our own features. That's right.
That's the other thing. So, I meet new guys because people introduce me to them. Hey, this got to be good for you. And, I've always been 100% clean. So my openers have to be clean. And that's where we get.
That's why we've never worked together.
That's why. That's why we've never crossed paths ever. But that's it. That's the biggest thing is the hang. And there's no mentoring. I think that's gone.
Right, yeah.
And it's a shame because so when I do a tour and I'm out with my guys, I make sure we go to IHOP or Waffle House afterwards.
Have a conversation.
And just, hey, hit me.
Yeah, that's great.
Hit me. And they just have all these questions and I answer them the best I can.
Well, now you might have opened the floodgates. Now you're going to have every open micer in the country bothering you.
That's right. So, as long as you're clean, come on.
As long as you're clean.
Okay. And funny. Got to be funny. That's the key.
First. All right. Well, let's go to our first clip here. I'm going to open the envelope again. Don't know who these are. And again, when we're watching, feel free to throw these bad boys on. But our first one is Lewis Black.
Nice.
Lewis Black. Any thoughts on Lewis Black?
Genius. That's my first one.
Yeah.
I think he's a genius. I love his take on what we do. Mm-hmm. And he's decent at golf.
Decent at golf.
Decent.
Yeah. Doesn't seem like he's too athletic, but he makes up for it on stage.
Well, you know what? That's the thing. You don't have to be.
Is bad language.
Wait, are you playing it now?
Go for it.
Okay. All right. Well, let's. I'll tell you, Lewis Black, just real quick. He was one of the first guys I met that was on television. Because when he was doing the Daily Show, I worked with a booker named Roger Paul who was booking Lewis, and I met him real briefly. And that was, I think as a young comic, you never forget the first person you meet that's kind of like on TV, like, oh shit, Lewis Black, oh my God, Daily Show, and I thought it was so cool. And just you feel like, wow, I'm kind of like doing this now.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. And he was so gracious and nice. And then you see him on stage, you're like, this guy, is everything okay at home? But let's watch a little Lewis Black here. Here we go.
There's no such thing as bad language. I don't believe that anymore. It's ridiculous.
I think you might disagree with that, but that's...
They call it a debasing of the language. No. We are adults. These are the words that we use to express frustration, rage, anger, in order that we don't pick up a tire iron and beat the shit out of somebody. What do people say? What is the good language you're supposed to use that's supposed to help you overcome certain things? What do people say who don't use those words? Somebody who after 40 years loses their job, is fired, let's say. or let go, and they lose their pension and their welfare and their benefits. They lose everything. They sit on the couch all day going, oh, pussy feathers. Sassafras, sassafras, sassafras. I know you don't use bad language in front of these people. I understand that. Okay? Because these people are the movers and the shakers. These are the people who are our first line of defense when it comes to the terrorist threat. But the word shit makes them cry. Why did he say poopy? Why did he say poopy?
It's great.
That is hilarious.
That's great. And what are your initial thoughts when you see that?
Oh, see, here's the thing. I'm clean, but
Yeah.
I'm a comedian. I love comedy.
Yeah.
And I love good comedy. So I don't care if it's filthy or not. I mean, you know.
Sure.
Lewis Black uses words I won't use on stage.
Sure.
But that was hilarious. And he's right, you know, because I don't say sassafras, though.
Well, what I love about that bit especially is that you know, it's almost like he's the prosecution, and he's making his case, right?
Right.
And so he's building up the case. And what I like about that joke is the slow steam build up to, what if you lose your job? What if you lost your pension? What if you do this? And he's just making the case, and he's digging the hole so that the release is that much better. And again, in only the fashion and tone that Lewis Black can communicate. Just fantastic.
Oh, yeah. And he prefaces it all with, we're adults. This is adult language.
That's right,
So
yeah.
he's not saying, hey, kids, this is okay. That's
Yeah.
his own way of saying this is for adults.
Yes, yes.
You know, he's not saying it's okay for kids to go out there and start doing all that.
He always looks like his wife just left him. His hair's frazzled.
Yeah,
the tie's undone. He looks like a used car salesman.
Well, yes, he does. He looks like he's some kind of salesman for sure.
And I think if you're ever going to do a Lewis Black impression, it starts with the fingers. The fingers are the source of agitation.
That's it.
With
And
him,
I get my voice really going like this. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that bit is classic Lewis Black. It's great, and it's resonant upon a subject matter that I think, especially in comedy, is ripe for the taking.
I mean, stand-up comedy is the last bastion of free speech.
Yes.
And when it's not used, I think we're missing something. I mean,
yeah, I think he's certainly one of the purveyors to swing the pendulum back the other way.
Yeah.
I would say I think that bit is great. I would 1 out of 10. You're always judging the bit, not the comic. I would give that like an 8.5.
Oh yeah,
out of 10.
At least I was
Maybe
going to
even
go
a 9.
9. I was going to go 9 at
Yeah.
least because just the bit, the way it was written, and like he said, he prefaced it the way he knew he should.
Yeah.
Even though he had a point to make, he still underlinedly said this is adult humor.
Yeah.
This is adult language. And then he just fed you into it so you'd have your own preconceived opinion.
Yep.
And then he flipped it over. Hey, what if you lost your job after 40 years? Would you be sitting on the couch? No,
Yeah.
you'd be dropping F-bombs.
Yeah, he makes the joke so relatable, and again, like to your point, very, very well constructed bit.
Oh, yeah, great bit.
So I go 8.5,
9.
9. We'll keep running total. We'll have a winner at the end. Here we go, number 2. Let's see who this is. I'm very excited for this next one. Okay. I had to take a peek. All right. Bobby Lee.
Okay.
Bobby Lee is our next. Now I have quite a history with Bobby Lee. What are your initial thoughts when you think of Bobby Lee?
Him pulling his shirt up.
Pulling his shirt up. Well, the first thing I think about is him pulling his pants down.
Yeah.
So,
well, as
maybe I'm
long
a
as the
little-
pants stay on, you know him better than I do.
That's
but
why. Yes, you got
as long as
the
there's-
acquaintanceship
Yeah.
hello. I got the
no,
friendship
I'm talking
hello.
about it on the stage. He'll pull that shirt. I mean, if you had some abs, yeah. But no, I love Bobby.
I always tell him he has the body of a scallop.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Just rotund and bulbous,
Yes.
and you could poke it, and he's cute.
And the texture. Bobby, that's what I think of. Him just showing off his skin.
Yes.
I can't tell you one of his jokes, but I can tell you that he pulled his shirt up.
Well, I'll tell you one of the first jokes I remember him doing was his first Tonight Show appearance. I believe Jay Leno was hosting, and Bobby had a joke about his parents owning a farm. and they would sell corn. And his job was to yell at people that they're selling corn. So he's got the stool and he's literally screaming corn as cars are passing. Anybody else doing that, it'd be funny. Bobby has funny in his bones. His face is funny. His body's funny. When he's angry, it's funny. When he's happy, it's funny. He's camera ready. Right. I don't know what it is about him. Funny in the bones, as Steve Renazizi says. So that because I saw that bit, I reached out to my manager at the time and I said, hey, this kid did the Tonight Show last night. His name is Bobby Lee. Do you know him? And he put me in touch with him, and I called him. And I said, Bobby, you don't know me. I'm a comic from New York. I think your set was hilarious. And if I'm ever in LA, I'd love to take you out to lunch. Would that be possible? He said, absolutely. And he was the first person I called when I went to LA for the first time. Wow. Didn't know anybody. We had lunch and hit it off right away. And he was very instrumental at helping me get into the Comedy Store, get to know everybody. So I have a deep sense of gratitude to Bobby, but also at the same time, a lot of animosity because of who Bobby is and how he can just change on a dime. He's the worst human being on the face of the planet, but the greatest human being at the same time. So that being said, let us see a bit from the rotund, charming Bobby Lee.
I wish they had this audio only.
Look at that hair.
You know what I hate about Asian parents? They're so honest. Like, they have no filter. They have no editing system. Whatever they think, they say. This is my dad. Good morning, Dad. You look ugly today. You look horrible. Don't go outside. You are ugly. You made me, motherfucker. When I was in high school, I used to bring girls into my house, right? I would introduce them to my dad. My dad would tell them stories about me, like secrets. Like dark shit. Hey, Dad, this is Stephanie. When Bobby was a little kid, he ate the dog poop in the front lawn. I said, hey, don't eat that. He said, I only had one piece. Nice to meet you. He still does it today. Hey, Dad, this is Cindy. When we lived in Minnesota, Bobby was molested by a retarded guy. I said, how did you get molested by a
Jesus Christ. By the way, what most people don't know is that that's a true story. Like, it's a true story. Bobby was molested by, I guess, his slow-going neighbor, and his father would bring it up, like, to strangers. Bobby would tell me crazy stories. Like, he was at a mall and had a babysitter, and the babysitter lost Bobby. And so this babysitter's running around the mall. Where's Bobby? Where's Bobby? And she sees a crowd of people at the food court. There's a water fountain. She goes over. Bobby is in his underwear swimming in the fountain. At a young boy's age, he was still that impulsive.
So he always took his clothes off.
I think
even
he's
then.
always ready to show off a very... The scallop, yeah. The scallop, yeah. Any thoughts on the bit?
It's I have Asian parents, so that's my dad too. But
yeah, very blunt.
Very blunt. I'll never forget my buddy who's a civil engineer now. Mm-hmm. Well, he was in college, and we walked in, and my dad said, "So, Kevin, what do you study?" And my buddy goes, "Civil engineering," and my dad goes, "Oh, the easy one." I mean, just like that.
Right.
The easy one. And then my buddy goes, It is. Yes, it is. It is.
That's great.
It is the easiest out of all the engineers.
Well, the blunt honesty of an Asian parent, I think, only is an asset in comedy. Because that's a comeback you'd say, I think, if you, what do you do, civil engineering? Oh, the easy one.
Yeah.
It's like, there it is there.
Yeah, the easy one.
I got to tell you, that bit was hilarious. I think anything Bobby says is hilarious. It's one of his better bits, which isn't saying much. But it is one of his better bits. I really I enjoy anything Bobby says. And again, from the minute he talks, just anything he says, there's a twinkle in his eye. There's a charm about him. Everything about him is funny. Yeah. The way he dresses, his sloppy hair.
Yeah.
He looks like, those people that win the lottery and lose everything?
That's him.
That's how he presents himself on stage. He just, everything's gone. Mm-hmm. I got to start from scratch all over again. How are you? I got to go back to the fucking bookstore. You're a millionaire. I lost it all.
Lost it all.
I would give that bit. This is one of those tough ones because I'm judging the bit, but the comic is so much more than the bit. You know what I
it's
mean?
hard to judge this as the bit only because he's talking about his father.
Yeah.
So you have to judge. You got to bring Bobby into it
Oh, sure.
also.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not talking about something in general.
Yeah.
This was a family.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think it strikes the bone a little bit more too, having a Korean mother. So I'd give that bit a 9 out of 10 because I was laughing out loud, and
I almost spit it out because he talked about his neighbor, which I've heard that story. I can't, and what went through my mind is I'm like, I can't believe, why did you bring that in? You could have gone anywhere.
yeah, exactly. He brought up all the things, I guess, from his therapist and brought him in, and
Which is what comics do.
to know that that's a real story, and he just throws it in there as a toss away again too is like one day he should tell that story because he'll make it funny. He will just make it funny.
Yes, if it's possible, he will do it.
He is unbelievable. Quite a specimen. And when I first met Bobby, I met Ken Jeong, and we went out and did a tour called the Kims of Comedy.
I remember that.
And we did a show in San Francisco, and Bobby and Ken, there was always some sense of friction between the two. I was always like, hey, there's enough room for everybody, but there was a little competitiveness between these two. And Ken had not done anything, and then he had the hangover. And the hangover, like Bobby was always the top tier of us. Then Ken was like here, he did like The Office or whatever, and I was just the comic. And then Ken did the hangover, boom, blows it up, right? So now Bobby's on the underswing. And we were in San Francisco, and they had an argument, like yelling at each other, a fight in the green room, outside, sold out show, lying around the block waiting to come in. And it looked like it was going to come to blows. Bobby and Ken are right there, right there. Now, they're both 5 feet 3 inches.
Yes.
Tiny men.
Yes.
And I'm 6 foot, and Kevin Shea, the other company, he's like, dude, you might want to break this up. And I was like, I think we should let this go because this will be the cutest fight I've ever seen in my entire life. It's like a puppy and a kitten.
Yeah. And there's no martial arts involved. None.
There's no martial arts whatsoever involved. So it was, it got, pretty crazy there. That
would have been the quickest, too, because they both would have gotten winded really fast.
Very winded. But you know what's crazy is as sweet as they both are, they both have, they have Han. They have Korean, they have that Korean temper.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. See, I don't have it. My dad
You don't have it?
No. Well, my wife will disagree. But not that I've had a temper against her. It's just, like.
How many
in
drivers
general.
have you lost over the years or irons? How many have you chucked?
Oh, no. I don't.
No?
Here's the thing about the game of golf. It is super duper hard.
Yes.
And I realize that. So I don't throw clubs. I don't, I hit a bad shot. It's doggone it, stuff like I'm going to hit a bad shot.
Right.
It's golf.
You're very zen about it.
Come in, yes, and that's what I use it for.
Okay.
I use it for my release, and
It gets you in the zone. It's cathartic for you.
It is. I love it, and I haven't played because of winter right now. And
You're jonesing?
I'm
Top golf?
Finally, nah, I don't.
No.
I do that for charity stuff and when my kids want to go. But no, I mean, I got pals with simulators and stuff like that, but I still haven't even done that. I haven't touched a club since the end of December. So, and I'm playing with some tour pros in Jacksonville coming up, and they're ready to take all my money because I haven't touched a club. And plus, I can't beat them anyway.
Yeah.
But now they're like, wow, you're going to be horrible. We can't wait. I went, thanks. I'm an amateur.
Yeah.
Right? And they still make fun of me. So.
Well, as you know, our last clip, we always show a clip of. Oh, yeah, Henry, what's your score for Bobby Lee? Sorry about that.
Oh, Bobby Lee, 9.
9 out of 10. Oh, my God, he might win. He may just win this episode. Well, as you know, our last clip.
Oh, wait, that's going to make him win? 7.
7, yeah.
I'm kidding.
I'll give it a 6. I'm like that lady with the Crazy Rich Asians. I'll go down a bit. But we always watch one of us.
Oh,
so
really?
it's either going to be a clip of me
Well, I hope it's
or be a
you.
clip of you.
I hope it's you.
So we shall see what we have here. I should be a good guest, but no, a good host, but it's Henry.
It's me.
It's one of your bits, so I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, let's see when this was.
Henry Cho. Is this from his hour? No, it's from something else? Okay. And just curious, you filmed your last hour in Knoxville, Tennessee, where you grew up. I'm always curious. I grew up in Pittsburgh. I never got to Mine have always been Chicago, LA, New York. I've never gone back home for a victory lap. What was it like getting to record an hour back home?
Well, here's the craziest thing. So we were trying to figure out where we're going to do it. So Atlanta, LA, San Francisco, Seattle, Dallas, and buddy of mine said, hey, you know, they put $29 million in the Tennessee Theater. And I went,
Oh, wow.
Let's go look at it. So I went and looked at it. I said, well, here we go. And so the producer went, saw it, goes, oh, man, this is fantastic.
Sure.
So that's why we did it.
Wow.
It just so happened, my hometown. So
Yeah.
it worked out great. It was a win-win for me.
Oh, great.
And soon after that, some other comedians shot specials there. And it was cool. It was weird, but it was cool because you know, it's one of those things when you sit there and you're embellishing a little bit about
Sure,
my kids and their ages and their names or whatever. And, you know, I'm looking at the guy I grew up with, and he knows that my daughter's not 7.
Right,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? That kind of
Sure,
thing.
yeah.
So that was going on, but that was about it.
Yeah.
It was fun.
But it must have been great to see a ton of familiar faces, people you haven't seen years or you went to school with that all came out to support.
So after that, I started doing a show at home every year, and it's
beautiful.
it's a lot of fun. Do the Bijou Theater there, and you know my hometown packs it out, and we have a lot of fun. And so all my shows I do a Q&A
Right.
toward the end. So the Q&A in Knoxville goes on forever
Oh, wow.
because it's always, hey, you know, we were in 7th grade.
so they know
blah,
each-
blah, blah.
yeah, that's great. They
that
know
kind
you.
of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were in 7th grade. I don't know if you remember, blah, 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 blah. And I can always go, I have no idea who you are. Sorry. Or yes. Oh, I do remember you. That kind of thing. So they go on
awesome.
forever. Yeah.
Any thoughts before you see yourself? Some comics don't mind it. Some comics hate it. What do you think when you have to watch a set of yours?
Well, I don't watch a set. I don't watch myself. So, you know,
This would be interesting then.
No. You know, the first Tonight Show is the first time I did TV and
Sure.
first times. But I would watch them to critique. I wouldn't watch them. I would always watch them because I think, man, I think I messed that up. I think I should have done this. So the one I watched the most was Even at the Improv. We have time for this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So 3 shows, Santa Monica Improv.
Yeah.
3 shows, starts at 7 o'clock. Packed house.
So they're filming all 3. Can take the best
3
set. Is
different
that what it
shows.
is?
Yeah, first show, those guys smoked it. The audience was hot. In between shows, they put a comedian on to do a headline set, 45 minutes. Yeah, it's brilliant. So Fred Wolf is last out of 15. I'm next to last.
Right.
So we're waiting. So at this point,
man.
now we have 30 people in the audience, exhausted.
Oh, man. And you're filming this?
Oh, yeah. And they're all
man.
stage right. So everybody tells us, don't work stage left.
Yeah.
So the other 3 guys go up and they do what they're supposed to. They're going to sweeten it afterwards. So I go up and I start working stage left.
Yep.
Just to do it because I'm so mad.
Yeah, of course.
And it's like the 10th one of these I've done
Sure.
at the time. So I start working stage left and the camera can't go there because it looks like this.
Yeah.
It looks like it's empty. And so, you know, I come back here occasionally. And so they were trying to fit it and all that. Fred, and I just did like jokes I'd already done on previous shows because I wasn't going to burn
You're not
going
gonna
to
burn it, yeah.
I'm not burning a set on that. So then Fred Wolf comes out after me and pulls out a piece of paper and goes, I wrote these with Henry before we came out here. And he starts reading off jokes he and I wrote about what was going on.
Oh, my God. Are you serious?
Yeah, we were
That's
so mad.
awesome.
So that's one I watched. Fred and I made sure we watched each other on that just to
that's
see if they
great.
kept it in.
Did they keep it in?
They kept it in. And
Oh,
my
my
set,
God. They kept it in.
my set, they had to for time.
Yeah.
You know, this is back before it was digital. You couldn't just
Sure.
fly somebody in. This was film, man.
That's great.
And so they were trying they were trying to show where I was going, but
Yeah.
they could only go so far. It was hilarious.
Oh, that's great.
was hilarious.
I remember like when I did my half hour for Comedy Central, Bill Burr had done his before me, and they tell you do a half hour, but the edit's only 22 minutes. So Burr was like, I had my set. I didn't want them to cut anything out, so I did the 22 minutes exactly that I wanted, and then I said goodnight. I said, oh my God, that's so smart. So I couldn't chop anything out or misconstrue anything.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I did 22 on the dot, and I was like, that's my set.
There you go.
So
Very
it's
smart.
funny that you guys took that upon yourselves to just go, I'm going to hijack this. Don't tell
We're
me
not
what to do.
doing it.
I know what I'm doing.
We're
All
not
right,
doing it.
well, let's watch a set of yours, the great Henry Cho. Let's see what we got here. On Ferguson. Here we go. Love doing this show. This one was a fun one.
Thank you very much.
On brand. Look at him in the plaid.
Thank you all very much. Wow, that's nice. So, yeah, it's good to be here in Los Angeles. I don't live here anymore. Went through too many earthquakes. The first one I went through scared me to death because it's my first one, but it helped me, too, because I was bowling. I'll tell you this, though. I was the last plane out of Bangor, Maine before the big blizzard. Last plane out. I'll tell you this, too. I was the last plane out of New Orleans right before Katrina. So just so y'all know, I'm leaving here tomorrow. So we're going to my wife's hometown, Arab, Alabama. Little bitty town, all white people. All the time. Except the day we got married. I had 20 Korean people there. We freaked that town out. We're hanging out at the gas station. Well, you go there and see where you hang out. Some guy walked up and said, "What are y'all doing here?" I said, "We may buy this place." "You gonna buy the gas station?" "No, the town." So I got 3 kids. Jackson's my oldest. He knows I'm a comedian now, so he tries to be funny. They learned about Native Americans in school, and the teacher let them pick their own names. So she asked one boy, "What's your name?" Said, "I'm Running Deer." Asked another boy, "What's your name?" Said, "I'm Roaring Bear." As Jackson said, "What's your name?" He said, "I'm Chick-fil-A." We were at a parent-teacher conference. True story. Teacher called us in, looked right at me, and goes, "What do you think about that?" I said, "I think that is hilarious." She goes, "Don't you have any concerns?" I go, "Yeah, did he time it right?" I'm a pro.
There we go.
I'm a pro.
Right. You are a pro.
Thanks for the courtesy laughs, man.
What do you, courtesy laughs. Those were great. What did you, when you do these sets, sometimes they say, "Hey, can you use this word, not that word?"
Yeah.
And it throws the rhythm off. So
Yes.
I always question when you see your late night sets, you're clean, so it's probably a lot easier for you. But were you happy with the construction of the set? Did you have to alter anything?
I did, because I normally say Chevron.
Specifics.
Yeah, so we're hanging out at the Chevron. Mm-hmm. So I had to change that at the gas station.
Specifics are always great in comedy.
And
so
then,
yeah.
Are you, you going to buy the Chevron?
Right.
Instead, I go, "You going to buy the gas station?"
Right.
So I had to do that.
Because Chevron's funnier.
Chevron's funny, and it's true.
And did you try a few different gas stations, or was Chevron always the go-to?
Chevron was the go-to because it's real.
That's it.
That's where you go.
Yeah. Okay.
I get coffee at the Chevron every time I'm there.
Right. Yeah.
That's where you go. There ain't no Starbucks. But so that I had to change. We weren't sure about I said Chick-fil-A.
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 Right.
So I wasn't saying Chick-fil-A.
Makes it funnier though.
Well, that's how my son said it. Chick-fil-A.
It's great.
So
yeah.
But those are the things.
The bowling joke is great, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
That's a great joke.
I love that joke.
Because I think there's like laughter you get from doing the Late Late Show or any of those late night talk shows. Adrian, our producer, booked it for a while, and I think that you'll know that the audience will just be like, "Oh, okay, we're gonna laugh at that. We're gonna." The warm up says you got to give them laughs, give them energy, but when you get the applause break, that's the audience acknowledging that's fun. It's a great joke. Yeah. Really great joke.
That was one. It's always been like a throwaway somewhere in there. I've never opened with it.
Right.
And so that was one I was going. Even a buddy of mine said, "You're going to open with the earthquake bowling?" I said, "Yeah, so I can get into my, I'm leaving here tomorrow, or I'm leaving here tonight, or whatever." Yeah. And he's like, "Oh, okay." I said, "So even if it doesn't work, it'll get me where I'm going." He's like, "But you normally open up, bam," and I go, "I know." I said, I think it's going to work."
Yeah.
And they got it.
And it worked.
Yeah.
And LA especially, Los Angeles,
right,
it's such
right,
relatable.
Right.
Yeah. I would give that bit, like here's how I'd grade this one too. I would not only grade it as a bit, but I'd grade it as a late night comedy set because those are, a club's a different beast, an hour special is a different beast, a late night talk show set is a different beast.
Totally.
They're two completely, because you have 4.5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You're your own warm up. Mm-hmm. You got to come out of the gates, like you said. You want to kind of, sucker punch them out of the gates, and then you got them right away. And you had an applause break, I think, within 30 or 45 seconds. And I think that applause break is the momentum you need to carry you for the next 3 minutes.
Right.
So a late night talk show bit, I would say that to me was like a 8.8.
Wow.
Out of
Thanks.
10, because it's got everything you want, so compact. Those are bite-sized samples.
They have to be jokes. I have to write jokes to do those because
Yeah.
I'm not a joke teller. I'm a storyteller.
Yeah.
So all my stuff is really long and not, there's funny components, but, they won't let you go on a talk show anymore with one subject and do a 5-minute bit.
Right.
Because that did not work one time. I won't say who it was. And it was excruciating.
There's always a comic that's going to ruin it for everybody else.
It was excruciating. Well, and it's worked every time.
Right.
I know the guy well. I've seen him do it 40, 50 times.
Sure. It's that one time.
Didn't work when it needed, and you got nowhere to go. Tonight show, here's your set.
That's it.
You can't change gears.
Yeah.
So they don't allow that anymore. So, somehow I can do a few bits here and there that are longer, but not many. And so I have to write jokes. So
Sure.
doing a stand-up set is totally different from me. And when I'm writing, and if I come up with a joke that's pretty much boom, boom,
Right.
it gets there fast, I go, okay, there's one.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay, there's another one, put in the quiver.
Yep.
So for the next TV thing, I can pull that one out. So,
Yeah.
it's a whole different. I don't write for TV sets, but when I write, I know what will work in a TV set.
You know what's going to be constructed. I mean, I remember doing all my sets, and the first time I had it, it was just a toss-away line I'd have in the middle. I'm Korean and Irish. I'm Caucasian and Asian, which makes me Caucasian. And it was like, it's such a dumb little filler joke,
Yeah.
but it's like, no, that's the first line.
Yeah.
That's
Bam.
your first joke.
Yeah.
Within 3 seconds, now they have some sense of identity. Like Louis Anderson, even as a kid, let me get this mic stand out of the way so you can see me. It's like instantly in that little joke, you know everything you need to know about this guy. And what a shame. What a loss.
Dear friend. Big loss.
One of the sweetest.
Man, Saget and then Louis, it's been brutal.
Yeah, and I think, again, when Norm, Saget, Louis, that is, again, part of the pioneering class, I think, where entertainment, especially at the time, was communal. Nowadays, everything is so fractured. People may not know who Sebastian Maniscalco is in New York City if you walk along the sidewalk and pull somebody's side, or Theo Vaughn or Segura. But when we grew up, especially in the 80s and 90s, whatever was on TV, everybody knew that because that's it.
That's what you want.
So you knew Saget.
Right.
You knew Norm was on, even if you never saw SNL. Oh, that's the guy that was on Update.
Right.
And Louis, everybody's seen Coming to America.
Right.
If you seen nothing else, you knew who they were for those things.
Right.
And I think these days, it made me appreciate that class that you're a part of. I think that pioneering class of comedians, whereas these days there's a kind of a new class where I don't think comics will be as revered, 20, 30 years from now, like on the Today Show when somebody passes. Is it going to have that same affection or sense of loss, other than the fractured pie of people that really cared about that individual because they loved that podcast or whatever it was.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't, not to get grim on the optics, but do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I get what you're saying. No, I mean, that's the whole thing. You grew up with them. You saw them when you were sitting in your pajamas.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's a whole different comfortable position to be in.
Yeah.
They became part of you. I mean,
now you're part of somebody's commute.
right.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And you're watching people on your phone, little bitty screen.
Sure.
And instead, back then, it was the magic of television still. Mm-hmm. And, Louis, he and I were great pals. And just, that one, Saget too. I mean, it's been brutal, man. And Louis, okay, so he had cancer and he was overweight. So we knew his passing was more imminent than Bob's. So Bob's, Saget's is shocking because, I said this the other day, Saget's, that's our worst nightmare. Doing a gig, going to a hotel room, hanging out, and not not going to the next gig.
Well, the first thing I told my wife is he died in the hotel room.
Yeah,
Like-
we don't do that.
That's the last thing I think any comic wants.
No,
You want to be at home.
You want to be somewhere.
Yeah, but not like just
in your room by
knowing,
yourself.
not in a hotel room.
It's our nightmare.
It is the. I think that's probably, if not the first, at least the second or third thing you thought as a comedian, because you instantly go, oh my God, Bob Saget, and then you go internal and you think about your relationship to Saget, but also as a comic.
Yeah.
And when I saw, even if it's a 4 seasons, doesn't matter.
No, it's just. I mean, that's the thing. That's the nightmare. That
Yeah.
You're not going to your next gig, you know. And he was on tour, and Bob was loving it again. And I texted Coulier that night or that morning, I can't remember. Just don't need a reply. Just thoughts and prayers to all the closest friends and
Sure.
family. And he texted back, just no words,
Yeah.
just horrible. Thanks. And I said, yeah.
I have a thought on his death, and tell me, you knew him obviously very well, but he said he was finding his voice again. That was something he was communicating towards the end of his life. And I always thought he was always rebuffing. A lot of it was, I think he had a very, very sharp, witty, twisted sense of humor, but I think he was rebuffing the Full House, America's Funniest Videos on stage and being kind of like, almost being uber dirty to rebuff everything. And I think when he was discovering his own voice, I think he had fought that battle. He beat the battle. He established himself again, and now he was ready to be Bob Saget. And that's what I discerned when I read that blurb after he died about discovering his voice again. And that was the instinctive, reflexive thought I had. Do you find any merit in that, or what are your thoughts on when you said, I'm finding my voice again?
Well, yes, I hear that. Bob was filthy from day one.
Okay.
But he was cleverly filthy.
Right, not dirty.
He'd do the thing about, I'm nuts over my daughter, and then he'd go, she's about that how, So that is the typical Bob Saget joke.
Right, yeah.
And so then he gets full, yeah, trust me. Just laugh so hard at that. So that's your typical Bob Saget joke.
Yeah.
And then, he gets Full House, and we're all like going, how did you get Full House? Who
Yeah.
saw you and went, he should be a dad?
Yeah.
Because we're like, what? And so he gets it, and then he becomes
America's
Danny.
Dad for a while.
And then he becomes America's Funniest Videos or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And that's how my kids knew him, from
Sure.
AFI. And
How do you know him, Daddy?
yeah, you don't want to know. I'm nuts about you, though. So I'm nuts above you.
Yeah.
I'm nuts over. I'm nuts over you.
yeah.
That's it. I'm nuts over my daughter. So, so we all knew Bob.
Sure.
And then I'll never forget. He was going out to tour after all this TV stuff, and he was doing some sets, and he looked at me. We're standing back at the Improv, and he looked at me and he goes, "Man, I remember when I used to be funny." And I said,
Wow.
"You're still funny. They just don't." I go, "They think you're that guy."
Sure, yeah.
And I said, "But you don't have to give them that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Just let them know that you're not that guy."
Sure, yeah.
So finding his voice again, I think he finally found a rhythm and good space where his audience, he could be him, which was dirty and filthy, but they accepted it.
Right,
And I'll never forget, we were roasting Tom Arnold,
right.
and Bob was emceeing because that's what Bob did. Bob was, he's
a host.
We all looked to Bob.
Yeah.
Bob's going to control it. And he's getting ready to introduce me, and he talks about some filthy thing about he and Tom, and I mean, it was just filthy. And he looks down at the list and goes, "Oh, my bad. Coming up next, cleanest guy in our profession, Henry Cho." And I come up, he goes, "Sorry, Henry." I go, "Yeah, that's all right. Whatever." He's talking about, and even Tom started dying, going back. He does that and then brings you up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's perfect. But
That's great.
that was Bob.
Yeah.
Bob was filthy. but Bob was cleverly.
Yeah.
It
Not
was-
low-hanging fruit.
No, it was
Yeah.
just brilliant, funny stuff. And,
He's a pro.
and he was, and you laughed hard at him, but yeah, he found his voice. I think I don't know if he was pushing back against that audience like you were talking about. I think he didn't relent who he was on stage, and I think there became common ground between that audience
Right.
and who he was as a comic.
Yeah.
That's what I think, and he loved it again.
Well, that's what, I heard from everybody, Jeff Ross, everybody, just like he fell in love with it. And I think that as a comic, at some point, it's going to become a job. And that happened for me a few years ago, where it was like, oh, this is becoming a job, whereas it never felt that way. And then there's something happens where you fall in love with the job again. And
Right.
You recalibrate your thoughts on it. But I cannot thank you enough for doing this. It's an honor and a privilege. I'm glad this is the time I got to sit down, because before I would have came up, I'm a big fan and you're awesome and can I get a picture? And then I'd leave. But I actually got to hang out and talk to you and get to learn from you as well. And man, I hope to get to share the stage with you here at Zanies sometime. Not opening for you, obviously. I'll never find myself in that position due to my material, but
That's hilarious.
one of these showcase shows,
Of
we
course.
can hang together
Yeah,
sometime.
man. We'll
It'd
do
be great.
whatever. And I appreciate you having me on. No, big fan. So,
And where can
Don't-
people keep in touch with you, Henry?
everything I do is Henry Cho Comedy. So Henry Cho Comedy, at Henry Cho Comedy,
There we go.
hashtag Henry Cho Comedy. Because Henry Cho, his real name's S. Henry Cho, largest karate school in New York City. S.
Really?
Henry Cho, yeah. And he passed away, but he grabbed henrycho.com right before I did. And then I couldn't grade him from him. He's 8th degree black belt. So, and I'm only a 6.
That's a good one to end on. Well, I want to thank my guest, Mr. Henry Cho. Look him up, Henry Cho Comedy. And again, I want to thank our good friends, our first sponsor at SueTheCollector.com. Reach out to them. And I want to thank our crew here, Taylor, George, Adrian. This is our first week with these guys producing, and really excited to venture off into the future. Thank you guys. Subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff. We appreciate it. We'll see you back here next time right here at Zanies for Comedy Pinata. Thank you guys. Thank you, buddy.
That's fun.
Awesome.
Cool.